Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Kuri, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. One thing you need to know about being a tribesman is that we're going to be extremely prolific in terms of changing your relationships. A lot of the stuff that I see lately, because I've been following a lot of people that are competition towards me, I followed a lot of them. I'm getting a lot of their ads, and a large chunk of it is some useful advice. But a whole lot of it is bullshit, absolute garbage. And when it comes to changing a sexless relationship, there's multiple things that you have to be considering. And there's a thing I was speaking to a client about, especially when it comes to changing a sexless relationship. We're talking about that within the way most people look at it and how most people advertise it. They say we're going to change your relationship within whatever time period. Sometimes they say 30 days. They sometimes say in 90 days. But it's going to take a whole lot more than that, because you have had X amount of years in existence, and before your partner, you've had X amount of years of being dished out trauma and dished out what a relationship looks like. And those lessons that you've learned that you're now trying to model within your relationship could be destructive or actually keep you within a sexless relationship. So they generally do not address those. And then the other bit is they say you're missing this psychological trick, which I'm going to show you, which again is another false one. It's false because some of these psychological tricks, I'm saying this because I actually saw a book that was being sold, and the real framing around it was that it's got these psychological tricks and that you can use, and then your partner is going to be absolutely obsessed with you. So I thought, that's quite interesting. I want to do that. But these things that we're referencing is psychologists that were probably around the 60s and 50s and even in the 70s. And the way they viewed women back then was not the same that we view women in fact, the way women are these days, which is this feminism that has come into play, and the way they view themselves and within a relationship is also changed. So therefore, some of that stuff is way redundant, and as a psychological trick will actually probably work initially, but will cause you harm in the back end. So on the front end, it might look good, it might give you a result, but on the back end, it will bite you in there. So it's one of those where you take one step forward and you're probably taking 200 steps back. So again, all of these on face value, it feels like momentum in terms of changing your relationship. But however, it isn't going to give you the result, or at least the long-term success that we talk about within the Thriving Tribesmen. And I know I'm being big-headed, but I need you to actually understand that in order to change a sexless relationship, there's multiple things that you have to consider. Now, in order to really give you a good idea of what I'm trying to say and what I'm going to give, I want to reframe how you view changing a sexless relationship. If I can change that for you today, it will help you to see through the bullshit, lack of a better term. Because again, when it comes to figuring out who's going to help you to get you to the place where you can enter frequently within the Twinkle Kingdom or Twinkle Cave. If you want to get into Twinkle Cave often, you're going to need to choose the right person that's going to take you there. And I would believe that Thriving Tribesmen is probably your best bet in order to get there. And now I'll prove you to the reason why. So when recently, this Mother's Day that's just left, which I think is a bit different from you guys in America, but ours is in March, end of March. It so happened that we decided to go to a restaurant. So I actually booked a restaurant. We went there, and it was a specific one because our kids are a little bit fussy. So I tend to just go for something that is more, traditional, like burgers, chips, and so on. So we went to this place. I know that there's some things my wife would actually pick from there that she wouldn't mind. But what tended to happen is that we end up ordering our food, and when it came, for my wife, it was cold and it wasn't that great. It was just, and the service was really poor. At that point, we'd probably waited about 45 minutes before we got served. So the experience was kind of already ruined. And as we expressed this to the manager, he was like, "Oh my God, I can see what your complaint is. I'm really sorry for everything that's happened." Obviously, still didn't change the state of my wife and the experience that she's had. So they said, "You know what? We're going to take off your meal." It says so as a sorry, and again, we'll give you a free dessert. Now they're only reimbursing her meal and her giving a dessert. So, and that was under the assumption that we were going to get dessert over there. We'd planned something else. So, while it was an effort to try and make amends, it still tainted the experience that my wife had. And she left the place still feeling disappointed, still feeling hungry. And again, even the reimbursement of money didn't do that much in terms of changing her mood. And again, she was rightly so, because you come out expecting a level of excellence, and then all of a sudden everything is below par. And again, this has to say, like you guys, when it comes to a relationship, as you start off in the relationship, a lot of what happens within a relationship, especially in the honeymoon period, you're basing the relationship on promise. And this is what happens when it comes to the honeymoon period, and why it fades, is that there's a lot of promise, there's optimism, and there's a lot of sort of you having this future, what the future might look like. So it brings a lot of excitement. It brings this desire to want to get to know each other. And as time goes, there's a transition from optimism and what's in the future to what is happening right now. And when those things do not match, where, for example, a year from now, we should be at this level, and then a year, when you get to the year, you're below that level, because you're subpar of the expectation, there's this feeling of, I've been robbed within the relationship. And again, I'm not saying this specifically that you have failed, but both of you have not shown up to the relationship in the way that you should. And generally what this does, it creates this level of discomfort. Now, it may show up in sexual discomfort for her, but it may show up in frustration for you. So sexual frustration. So there becomes this real divergent way of looking at things, where it's really, as the time goes and as a relationship goes forward, you're going separate ways because you've not been able to match the expectation way before. And again, this is where a lot of the friction happens, and you've got to bear with me with this. So imagine my wife now, within that experience, after leaving the restaurant, she had this negative feeling around it. So both of you within that relationship, you start experiencing that relationship on a negative experience, and we call this negative association. So when it comes to sex, whenever you interact sexually, it compounds with a negative association, or it continues within a negative association. Again, very important key. So in contrast to this, we then went to a Thai restaurant. Now, I do not eat eggs. I do not like the smell of eggs. I don't like the texture of eggs. And they cook a lot of things with eggs. And we went to this restaurant. We know that in Thai food, they cook a lot of eggs, so, because we've had this a few times when we've gone to a Thai restaurant. And we ordered the food, and we stressed that, please do not put any eggs. Can you cook it separately? In fact, we asked them first, is there a time, can you cook the rice without the eggs? They said, yes, we can do it. And so the person wrote the thing. We sent them off. The service was good. They brought us our drinks and everything. And then when the meal came, it had eggs. So we called them over and said, you know what, this is the problem. It's got eggs. I don't eat eggs. And the manager came over and said, I'm really apologetic that this has happened, and I'm sorry that you've had to go through this. Obviously, now that you can have this meal with your wife, we would like you to have the meal with your wife, so can we take this stuff away and we'll recook the whole thing? And they went off and recooked the whole thing. But because now, again, we're spending more time waiting, they gave us some free drinks. Then on top of that, they recooked the meal, and then they offered that meal for free, which was absolutely incredible. So now we're having this free meal, and you got to bear in mind, they've just made one little mistake. And like I was happy with them just bringing another rice bowl, for example, and then just getting over it. But they were going above and beyond to make sure that I was okay and we were okay. And by the time we finished, we were having this meal for free. Basically, they'd taken our numbers so they can confirm if we can come back for another meal for free. And again, I said to myself, like, the amount of service that they put just to correct one mistake was absolutely incredible. Now, a lot of you, both of you within your relationship have made errors, and whether it's the case that she has lowered investment or she's never invested before, or whether you have never showed up with the excellence, there is a fracture to the relationship, and it's upon you to increase your level of excellence to make up for the issues that are happening within your relationship. So, for example, to change a sexless relationship, it means that there's a part of you that has to start leveling up in order to make up for the shit where you've been showing up within that relationship. So if you've been showing up in a way where you are in a depressive state, where you are in a low state in terms of you are quite angry, frustrated, and so on, which has continued this association of negativity towards sex. Again, all of that is you fracturing. And I know some of you guys have now tried to make amends. So you've increased the amount of date nights. You've increased the way you show up in terms of making do more around the house, and as a way to try and counterbalance. And some of these things that you're doing right now are equivalent to that manager who was trying to reimburse my wife only, trying to change the experience. And again, that was what is only allowed to do, I'm guessing. But he was just trying to reimburse that, and then he was trying to give her some pudding to try and change the state. And again, you guys are trying to do these little bits. But really, when it comes to changing it, look at this Thai restaurant. They were willing to go above and beyond. In fact, take a whole bunch of loss in order to have us. Now, if you ask me about that Thai restaurant, I've got nothing but amazing reviews. In fact, we knew the manager by name. We know the manager by name. And most likely, if I want to have Thai food, I'm going to that place because it's an incredible place. So my point being is that if you level up in the way you show up in the relationship, all of a sudden she will see so much pride. It will change the way she views you. Again, when you show up, again, it's not you showing up so it can be transactional in sense like I'm going to do all these things in order for you then to have sex with me. But it's just showing up and saying, this is the standard of how I'm going to operate within this relationship. The flip side, one of the things that I've done recently that is a good example of this is that my daughter's having a sleepover for her birthday, and my wife was like, the garden looks really awful, it looks really messy and so on. And I told her I'm going to do it on Wednesday, and when I did it, I just went above and beyond, just made sure that it was really tidy, made sure everything was clean, made sure it was incredible. Now, I didn't then go back to her and say, oh, did you see the garden? How was it? Was it really good? It was just the standard I was going to operate at. Whether she says thank you or not, it doesn't make a difference. In fact, I even went on to go and do the front garden to make sure that it was nice and neat, and then did a little bit of the house so that when my daughter brings her friends, she doesn't feel embarrassed by anything or anything that might make her feel embarrassed, So that was my motivation behind it. But at the same time, in terms of my wife, I was not doing that in order to impress her. But at the same time, I wanted to see that this is the level of excellence I'm going to show up within our relationship. You could see a problem. I resolved it. And whether you thank me or not, I don't give a shit. I'm always going to deliver at this high level of excellence. And so this is what it takes to change a sexless relationship. And again, this is just one part of what I do. Me going training, making sure that I'm taking care of myself from a mental health perspective, moving within my purpose, bringing resources into the household, my decision making in terms of when I'm required to make decisions, allowing myself to make decisions even though they're unpopular and they might be divisive. So, and again, allowing you embracing friction and dictating the pace of the relationship. So when the standards of the relationship fall, I'm willing to point that out, even though it may cause friction. So there's so many things that we need to be leveling up. And when I see these ads and all these other people that are talking about changing a sexless relationship or making the relationship better, they are focusing on the wrong things. And a lot of the things that they're focusing on are transactional things that will only work on the front end of you doing them, but as a long-term solution, have got a detrimental effect. So really just wanted to point this out, and hopefully it gives you a better picture of why we are extremely superior in terms of, we're just number one. We're just a cut above everybody. And I say this with as much humility as I can muster, but it's just a fact. It's not even me gloating. It's not even me trying to position myself. Like, it's just a fact. All the guys within Reignited Man, they've come from other coaches and we've given them result. And again, it's not just the result of they've changed their sexless relationship. They've pretty much redefined how the next generations are going to exist in terms of a relationship front. This is what we're doing. So this is why it's really exciting, the next stage of where we're going. We've got a free community that we're beginning to build, where we're going to start sharing these lessons and also getting people together so we can have conversations around this. So as you see your family changing, it's sometimes when you see that you are not getting the result that you want, you can share with the community and the community can help you. When you're feeling low in the mood or you're feeling a little bit depressed, you've got brothers that can actually encourage you. And then there's also an opportunity that in order to get better at what you're doing, it would be you seeing where somebody else is failing and being able to point that out and say, you know what, I'm further along in the journey than you are, and this is what I've done to fix it. So again, it gives by you sharing and by you doing something and overcoming it, and then showing somebody else to overcome it, it actually cements it for you as a lesson. But more importantly, it gives you an opportunity for us to actually start transforming the world as a whole group of men that are just going to be showing up differently, not just in our families, but in society, and more so in the world, that we're going to set the standard of what good relationships are and really redefine that. So really excited about where we're going when it comes to the way we're looking at things going forward. Is that we're going to do this free community, and this is going to be a good place for us to all grow. There will be still a paid community where, again, you get one-on-one time with me, which is a little bit different, where we actually talk about, you have my WhatsApp, you have direct contact to me pretty much all the time. I'll be able to contact me any time of the day, and I'll be able to respond to you as and when I get the chance. But literally, that will be the massive difference between these two communities. So thank you very much, guys, for listening, and hopefully this has reframed how you view changing a sexless relationship and what is in store. And again, I don't want to feel daunted by it, because there's a lot of work, a lot of it. Like I said, as soon as you are part of a community, you're going to find that it's going to be a lot easier. We will make you champions of your relationship and also champions of your community, and you see that it's actually going to be initially hard, yes, but as you work towards it, when you've got people that are working with you and rooting for you, you're not doing it by yourself. You're actually getting better as part of a community. So thank you very much, guys. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Take care.